Hello, everyone. I am sitting down to talk about my favorite albums of 2025. Similar to what I did last year, I am going to be ranking a whole array of albums that were on my radar this year, albums that I mostly listened to or entirely listened to. And I am going to be ranking them in 6 different categories on Tiermaker. Now, again, not all of these albums have I sat through and listened in their entirety. Most of the albums on this list I have, but there are a couple where I maybe skimmed. I like to skim where I basically go to like 30 seconds into the song and listen to about a minute. And then, if I like it, I add it to my library. If after a minute I'm not feeling it, I kind of, I'm like, I don't know. And so there are a couple albums on here that I do apologize. I have not, I don't have all the time in the world to listen to. There's, oh gosh, I don't even know how many here technically. It says 65. So 65 albums. It looks like a little less here when I'm looking at it. But I do have 65 apparently files loaded into here. So we're going to be talking about 65 albums and slash EPs. There might be a couple EPs in here. However, I want to preface one thing by saying that, first of all, yes, these are albums that are on my radar. So it's not going to be all of the albums that came out in 2025. Obviously, it's not even going to be all of the mainstream pop albums. That's just, I'm not constantly listening to, for instance, a lot of male musicians in the pop scene or in the hip hop scene or in other genres, country, for example. So this is going to be pop focused and female pop focused, but there will be some alternatives, some electronic stuff. It's indicative of my taste. I go in a bit of different directions sometimes, but the common thread is that these are by female artists. There's a couple male artists in here, but I actually don't think this was a very good year for male artists. I don't think that there were quite that many albums that I think. It'll be interesting to see at the Grammys how it goes down, but I do think Lady Gaga has a good chance this year. I know that obviously there was a Bad Bunny album this year, but I do not think that was his strongest album. But that's my own personal opinion. I think, some people may feel differently. I think it has some good songs on it. I don't think it's his strongest record. So I don't know. We'll see. I feel like that's Lady Gaga's biggest competition. Maybe the Kendrick Lamar record, but that's from last year, so it's not going to be on this list. Remember, the Grammy eligibility window is different from the calendar year, something always important to take into consideration. Overall, I do think that, well, obviously 2024 was a little bit of a bloodbath in terms of a who's who for releasing. There were just so many heavy hitters that put out new material last year. And this year, it was understandably going to perhaps be a little less crowded just due to the fact that a lot of those artists, with the exception of Taylor Swift, were taking a break the following year. We don't have Beyonce, we don't have Billie Eilish, we don't really have Ariana Grande. I'll talk about that. And Dua Lipa and those because, they released last year. But Taylor did come back, although I will say this, I just want to preface, I am so proud of Taylor for waiting until the 2026 Grammy window had closed at the end of August for her to release her 12th studio album, which will not be eligible until the 2027 Grammys. And I just think, I think since the Grammys in 2018, she has been eligible with a project for like the last 7 years. So it's time she took a little bit of a break from releasing something in a Grammy eligibility window. So even though she did release an album again this year, it's not going to be in the 2026 Grammys, which, gives someone else a chance. But of course, I will be talking about Showgirl here because we talk about the calendar year here. And so, yeah, I'm excited to get into this. Some of these albums I won't talk about as in depth, mainly because I may have already covered them. If I didn't review as many albums this year, I feel a little bit bad about that, but reviewing albums is something I'm starting to kind of fall out of love with a little bit. I mean, I'm always going to review my core, girlies when they release. I'm always going to talk about like a Florence and the Machine record or a Björk record, certain artists that are in my core. But artists that were, perhaps in the past, artists I would have covered, I'm not feeling so inclined to these days. But I do like doing this video because it's a great catch-all for me to talk about artists I haven't gotten a chance to talk about throughout the year. But there also might be a couple records that I don't have as much to say about because maybe I didn't listen to the whole thing. Maybe I just skimmed it, in which case I'll tell you the songs I liked. And then, I don't feel it's fair for me. I mean, I am technically giving it a review without having fully listened to it, but, there's only a couple. There's only a couple in here that are in that boat, and it just is what it is. I was potentially going to put more albums in here, and I was like, Arthur, you can't do that. You did not listen to them enough. And I don't think the albums I include in that category are going to offend too many people who watch this channel. But we'll see. But yeah, so without further ado, these are all in random order. Let me just go through the categories very quickly. So at the very bottom, I try to make clever allusions to album titles that were released this year. So in honor of Ava Max's album Don't Click Play, I put that as a category. This is only honestly probably going to have one album in it, and I already know what that album is. So this is a very harsh category, but I think most people are going to be in agreement with where I put this album. I really made this category just for that one album. I don't want to put a lot of albums I know I'm not into on this list, but this one artist I just felt like, because there was one song I kind of liked. I was like, whatever. But then we have also a pretty negative category, which is The Life of a Flop Girl, an allusion to, of course, The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift. These are there'll be a few more albums in here. Again, most records, most of the albums I have in here, I kind of enjoy, and that's why I listen to the whole thing. I don't make myself listen to projects I'm not that into. But, there are going to be a couple records in here that I just couldn't make myself listen to the whole thing, but I still, felt like I wanted to talk about. There won't be too many in this category, but, it's there. It's not like a complete indictment. Maybe it's also a little bit of an indictment on the album actually flopping commercially, although I'm not going to be considering that too much because there's going to be some albums I put way up there that definitely flopped. The next category is Here for Some of It All. So basically, this category is for the albums that I feel like are mixed bags. Albums that, maybe I liked quite a few songs from it, but then the rest I just felt like I didn't need to add to my phone. I think there's going to be quite a few in this category, along with the next one, which is So Close to Good. These are songs that are almost in the top tiers. They're pretty good, but I guess I should say so close to great because, good is probably where they're kind of already if they're in that category. So close to great. And this is, of course, obviously an allusion to So Close to What by Tate McRae. Then we have Something Beautiful, which is the title of Miley's album this year. These are albums that are truly something beautiful. Pretty self-explanatory. And then we have the top category, Slayhem, which is a very cringe play on Mayhem by Lady Gaga, which, was a big album this year for sure. And one that I did review on this channel. So those are the categories. Without further ado, we're just going to get into this. Like I said, this is in random order. We're actually going to start with an album that, is a little weird to start with. But we're going to start with Cupcakes, The Bakery. I actually would never have before this year included a Cupcake album on a sort of video compilation like this because although I knew of Cupcake and I'd heard her on some features, I never followed her, never really listened to her until I met my partner this year, and he's a big Cupcake fan. And so I was brought along for the ride and was a little bit better familiarized with her oeuvre. And she released a new album this year. And look, I'm going to be honest. I did listen. I was forced to listen to the whole thing. I mean, forced is a little harsh. But, this is where it gets a little tricky for me because, this album was not necessarily a flop, although you could consider it a flop if you're talking about like the top 40 or whatever, Billboard Hot 100. But I'm not entirely sure if I like enough of the songs to put it in here for some of it all. But, when I do put them in these categories, there is going to be a gradient descending as we move from left to right. So if it's on the far left, that means it's in the, it means I like it more than the songs coming after. So keep that in mind. But in the interest of not offending too many Cupcake fans, I'm going to put it in here for some of it all. I think Cupcake is really witty and funny. She is definitely very explicit, notoriously so. And this new album does not shy away from that. And does a really good job at capturing the zeitgeist of pop culture, meme culture, internet humor. I think that there's something you can't help but like kind of love about her, in her irreverent kind of pop packaged debauchery. It borders on parody most of the time, but I mean, I do enjoy some of the songs. I mean, they're backbreaking. They're backbreaking bops. Okay, I mean, I don't know what else to say. The tempos are intense. UFO is probably my favorite on that record. That's Showbiz Baby by Jade. This was a huge year for Jade. I'm so proud of her. She is probably I don't know. I don't want to rank the Little Mix X girls together too much, but I will say I think Jade delivered the most impressive package this year. I mean, there's only one other Little Mix album released this year, which we'll talk about, but there is one coming up from Leanne Pinnock, and that's coming in the new year. But that's Showbiz Baby. Once that first single came out last year, which I slept on and far too late and finally got into once the album campaign started really rolling, Angel of My Dreams. From that song through the deluxe, which just dropped last week, the encore, which I want to just preface, if a deluxe was released for these albums this calendar year, for an album that obviously came out this calendar year, I am considering it in my ranking, although I didn't include it in like a separate, thing because it's the same album. For albums like Eternal Sunshine Deluxe Brighter Days Ahead, that is a deluxe edition of a 2024 release. And so because it's not really its own thing, I'm not including it on here, even though I really could have, but it would have been just me re-ranking basically the entire Eternal Sunshine record. So I didn't really think that was very fair. So you won't be seeing that on here, but most other deluxes that I can think of were released the same calendar year as their album this year. So the encore just came out, and I think the encore makes this album even better. I am going to be completely honest. I am very much considering putting this album in Slayhem. I wouldn't have thought that before the encore came out, but now that it has, I think this album has the goods. I think if you're looking for pop music that is on the forefront of innovation and sharp, exquisite beats, high octane, diva girl boss energy that's just so unapologetic and well produced. I mean, you're with incredible music videos. I mean, the Church music video, the song Church on its own, I'm obsessed with. Along with so many songs on the standard edition, Plastic Box, It Girl, Fantasy, Silent Disco. It's got the goods. Angel of My Dreams, of course. And so it's going to go in that coveted top spot. It may not be the top album, but it's going to go up there. Now, I was very excited that Halle Bailey finally delivered her debut album this year. I wasn't sure when it was going to happen. Angel was released in the summer of 2023, which, was over 2 years ago. And I felt like we had several false starts to this new album's era. But Love, or Something Like It, finally came in October. And unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure that it lived up to what I think a Halle Bailey debut should have been. I mean, again, it's not always my style of music. R&B, I can get into it. I can get out of it easily as well. And I just think that her vocals were not perhaps captured in a way that I was hoping they would. But I guess I can't expect every debut for an R&B girl to be Mariah Carey's debut and second albums. It just isn't quite the. It's a harsh standard for everyone to live up to. But that being said, there are some strong songs. Obviously, "Angel" is an incredible song, so that alone is carrying this record. I'm going to put it in here for some of it all. JoJo released an album called "Not Gonna Lie" in January, and it had a song on it that was in my top of 2024 video, "Porcelain Reimagined." Too Much to Say, "Ready for Love," "Porcelain." Those are the standouts. And so once again, I am kind of thinking here for some of it all, but I am going to put it behind. I'm actually going to put Hallie above The Bakery. Boy, that my computer is lagging. It really does not like me doing all of this at once. Justin Bieber, "Swag." There are actually 2 Swag albums this year, but I'm only going to be ranking the first one, or I guess when I'm ranking the first one, I'm going to be ranking them all together. There is a couple. There's, All I Can Take from the first record, and on the second record, "Eye Candy." Those 2 songs jumped out at me. But Justin Bieber's, especially today, not really on my wavelength. So I'm sorry. I'm going to put it in the life of a flop girl. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of Justin Bieber fans watching this, but I'm sorry. It'll be high in that category if there's too many others in there. But then we have Lady Gaga's "Mayhem." I did review this record, and because its title is also there, I am afraid I do have to put it in the Slayhem category. Let's put you in front of Jade. Come on. There we go. I mean, it's not an album that, I don't know, the staying power of it's tricky. I like it more than Chromatica, and I think that's all that matters. I think that this just feels a little livelier, a little bit more full of life and that creative spark, whereas it felt like Lady Gaga was a little on autopilot for Chromatica. And it has "Abracadabra," which is one of the best songs of the year. And it was so wonderful to see Lady Gaga return to her pop dance roots after, potentially hinting at never wanting to go back to it. Man's Best Friend. Sabrina Carpenter was one of those 2024 artists who said, "Hold my beer, I'm coming back this next summer too, but my lead single is not going to be nowhere near as iconic or memorable." This album is definitely a here for some of it all type of deal. I love Tears. I think Tears should have been a huger single than it was. I like "When Did You Get Hot?" because, the premise of that is hilarious. I think she's still so funny. House Tour is funny. Go-Go Juice. She has this charm and this wit and sarcasm and this fun play on feminism where it's, self-deprecating, but also at the expense. The humor is always at the expense of a man. And we all want to join along in the joke. It's a great way at flipping the script. I know there was a lot of controversy over the album cover, but to me, I see that as part of the joke, which, went over a lot of people's heads. But I can also understand, it's not an album cover I'm going to fall on the sword defending. But Don't Click Play by Ava Max. This is tough. I really want to put it in the life of a flop girl, but I think that's a little harsh. There are a couple songs, their names are escaping me, besides Don't Click Play, that are bops. But Ava Max has always been a little, she's very factory polished, kind of easily replicated pop music, very reliable in that regard. But there was another, hit maker that I think rose to the occasion a little bit more. We're going to talk about her in a little bit, that I think deserved a little bit more. So I'm going to put her, I'll put it in here for some of it all and put her there. Ed Sheeran's Play, believe it or not, I did not listen to the deluxe, but believe it or not, I I don't know, I've come a long way with my Ed Sheeran journey. I hated him in the 2010s, but something about Minus and yeah, something about Minus really brought me along for a more mature and reflective and introspective Ed. And Play, I do think, does a great job at bringing him back into pop music that's more jubilant and radio friendly without sacrificing a little bit more edge and depth that's not as corny and as annoying as it's been in the past. I love Sapphire, especially the Indian remix with the Indian male vocalist. I also love Old Friends and Rupert Grint in that music video. Um, yeah, there's something kind of charming. Azizam, I mean, it's not often you see a song celebrating Persian music and culture, so celebratory in pop music. I'm gonna be honest with you. Well, no, at the end of the day, it's still here for some of it all. A lot are going in this category, but it's gonna be towards the high end of that. Jessie J came back. I was so excited to hear that she's had some health issues. Don't Tease Me with a Good Time. I think it should have been called Don't Tempt Me with a Good Time. But this album is truly remarkable. I love almost every single song on it. I just think that it's a little bit more back to her roots. I mean, not that Rose was far from it either. I just think it was a sleepier record. And this album just, it brings the emotional ballads to I don't know, a point that feels a little bit more hard on its sleeve than perhaps Rose was. And it just also has Living My Best Life, which is just this power anthem for anyone, not just facing cancer, but just anyone going through hardship and kind of turning a corner or wanting so badly to turn a corner. And so for me, it's going in something beautiful. I think it's a remarkable record and a remarkable return, a triumphant return for a beleaguered artist who has not been given a fair shake by the industry in the last 10 years or so. Little Mix's other frontwoman, Perry Edwards, gave us her debut this year. It's so crazy. It came out 2 weeks after Jade's. A lot of albums came out in September, by the way. This was not a project I thought was going to blow me away as much as it did, but there were like 6 songs that I was like, I got to have these on my phone. If he wanted to, he would, has been the grower that just got under my skin. At first, I was like, "I'll take it or leave it," and then before I knew it, I was singing along the line, like I was singing the chorus over and over again. Um, Miss You, abso-fucking-lutely. I mean, I don't know. It's just this is what I'm missing with like an Ava Max record. There's just a little bit more heart and I don't know, life to a Perry record or another artist. Again, we're going to talk about who had a similar kind of thing. So I'm going to put it in so close to great only because I still think, at the end of the day, Jade pushed the envelope more and had a little bit more of the beats and the dance music that I'm looking for. Perry's was a little safer, what you'd kind of expect. But, I still think she has a great career ahead of her and she is a phenomenal vocalist. It's Not That Deep by Demi Lovato is kind of a weird album for Demi's career. She completely 180'd from Holy Fuck, which I understand, but she has been so identity crisis lately. And I mean, I like when artists change it up. I like that they go from one thing to the next and kind of are just this chameleon. But this record, I mean, I don't know. Demi obviously does not quite have the sway that she had 10 years ago when she was doing stuff like on Confident or even Tell Me You Love Me. It made a little bit more of a splash. I mean, this is the life of a flop girl. I hate to say it, but this album did not do as well as it should have. But I gotta say, I mean, I like how concise it is. I like how unapologetically pop dance it is. It's a future facing record. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm toying here, but I think I'm going to put it in so close to great, but behind Perry. No, I'm going to put it above Perry, because Here for It All, Here for Tonight, Here All Night. I'm so sorry. The song titles all jumble in my head. Is incredible, and so is Fast, and Frequency, Ghost. When she gets a little bit more, I mean, it's got the vocals, but it's also got the beats. So I'm here for it. I think that the package didn't come together in an explosive way that I think we would have all liked it to. And a lot of that was just because I don't know, Demi's not going to have that sway in the pop culture space anymore to the same degree. Keke Palmer put out an album this year. I'm going to say here for some of it all. Really, I just, again, always will praise her vocals. And I do love her first album. But to me, Keke is an actress first and foremost. And, One of Them Days was an incredible comedy that came out this year, one of the best comedies of the year. And I love when she gets comedic, like on T-Boo on Exposed. And Amnesia is great. Amnesia, is an impressive R&B pop pop hit. But the rest of it's a little forgettable otherwise when it doesn't have her being directly referencing her own memes and such. Now there are some men on here. Some men did release music. And believe it or not, Mumford & Sons are actually releasing an album in February. It's a really quick turnaround for them. But then they did take 7 years off before Rushmere. Rushmere, here for some of it all. What can I say? I think that their title track, Monochrome, Carry On, Blood on the Page, they definitely still know how to create rousing, anthemic melodies. But I still think that they're on a slight decline. I don't know. I mean, they've always been kind of the same sound throughout their career, so maybe it's not really that much of a change. I'm not a mega Mumford & Sons fan, but I do pay attention to them and I do check out their records. Something Beautiful is Miley's probably I wouldn't say most understood, most misunderstood child, because that award goes to Dead Pets. But the difference being Something Beautiful, I think, had a slightly bigger rollout that mega flopped. I mean, Life of a Flop Girl, oof, this album did not sell well. I'm not surprised. From the jump, it's very experimental, but then I was also impressed that it wasn't. I mean, we go from the title track to a song like End of the World, and I'm like, oh, okay, Miley's not completely abandoning us here. She hasn't gone full David Byrne / David Lynch, but then she kind of flitters back and forth. Lockdown, which is this 13-minute song on the bonus edition, I'm afraid I couldn't get behind. It was just noise for 13 minutes. Sorry, girl. I love the standard edition, but the deluxe didn't really add much to the package. I really loved the music video visual that I would have loved to have seen in a movie theater. But for me, I don't know. I mean, it was truly a stupendous, monumental statement record for Miley, where she is just unapologetically artistic. And I always love seeing that from, a slightly more mainstream pop star to go in these directions. And it was so, fashion forward and just unafraid to kind of embrace maybe, I don't want to say dated dance sounds, but sounds that other artists in her generation are sort of avoiding. She fully embraced. This is a very queer-friendly record, queer club-friendly record, Walk of Fame, Reborn, channeling Madonna from the 90s. I mean, I was just like, come on, this is what I'm here for. And so for me, Something Beautiful aptly should go in Something Beautiful. I almost want to put it in Slayhem, and we'll see by the end of the video if I change my mind and do so. Rebecca Black serving an EP as ferocious and fire as this is not something I fully expected, but I'm here for. Sugar Water Cyanide, Trust, Twist the Knife, American Doll. Fire, 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 fire. I mean, just like with that gun she has in the album cover, just shooting bops left and right. And letting no one get a breath in from dancing their ass off to these insane songs. So, I mean, I'm putting it in so close to great because, I mean, it's a short packaged EP. There's not a lot of filler, but I mean, this is like how you do hyperpop. This kind of hyperpop I'm here for. Maybe I wanted a little more of this from Brat. Five, I believe, is the fifth studio album from from Afrobeats artist Deaville. Um, DeVito's always been on my periphery. I've gotten more and more intrigued by each record he puts out. It's one I loved the most out of all of them, because there was this unapologetic, celebration of ancestry, African culture that I felt was just ever more present. I mean, it's always been there in his records, but this was just to another level. And it's a very summery record. The beats were lush, and the rhythm and percussions were just so infectious. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm at the end of the day only listening to about half of it. So it's going to go on the high end of here for some of it all. Kesha was independent this year. A year after she released Joyride, we finally got its accompanying album on, American Independence Day. We got Period. This is a statement record of Kesha's that, again, the critics and, general populace is going to overlook. But for Kesha fans and fans of, the pop girlies from the 2010s who never stopped listening to them just because they got into their late 30s, this is going to sit right at home with all of her other up-tempo releases. I mean, this is not quite as introspective an album as Gag Order or Rainbow, but it is still, I mean, it's got Cathedral. It's got the opening track, which is so transcendent with gorgeous vocals that switches it up into the most RuPaul's Drag Race friendly piano beat that, I mean, no one saw coming. I'm a little perplexed by the song in the best way, and only Kesha can take you on a joyride like the joyride she takes you on this record. Again, it's got all the best parts of, older Kesha mixed with, again, a little bit more of that maturity that she still shows each record deep. And of course, the celebration of this being her first, record outside of Kemosabe is a big deal. So I'm putting it in so close to great because it is ultimately very close to being one of her best. There's still, Kesha's got some strong records. V or Vi by Doja Cat is an album I wanted to be more into. But at the end of the day, outside of Happy and a couple other songs, I wasn't really getting into. I wasn't really gelling with the production. And I looked at the producer. The main producer on this record was, guess who? Jack Antonoff. So that explains why a lot of the songs I do like are the ones he didn't touch. So because of that, it's going in here for some of it all. At the end of the day, Jack for pop music is not a good fit, but, to each his own. Lily Allen came back for the first time in, again, I think I want to say 7 years with West End Girl, which became a, cultural phenomenon just because of its lyrical content. Being about David Harbour and the dissolving of their relationship and his infidelity. I'm not entirely sure if I buy the hype musically with this project. I think Lily Allen might have stronger records, but there's no denying that we all need, the antithesis to Showgirl by Taylor, which was so happy and honeymoon. We needed something that was going to channel the people who are going through breakups this year, who were a little more bitter and jaded. And West End Girl came at the perfect time for that. Tennis, Fruity Loop, 4chan Stan, Pussy Palace, those songs hit and are catchy, but also statements that are so important in feminist lexicon that, this album is going to, I think, be on a lot of people's year-end lists. So at the end of the day, I am going to put it in so close to great, but at the very bottom here. Ciara did something kind of annoying this year, which is basically take an EP that she released 2 years ago and decide, you know what? I'm not done with this EP. Let me add another 6 songs to it and call it the exact same thing. We already had How We Roll and Winning and a bunch of these songs out in 2023. But then she put out a couple singles in 2024, and some of them were really good. I really like Run It Up. And so now we have the full-length album, CC. So it's like, okay, I mean, I hate when artists do that. I mean, doing the EP and then making it a bigger album later. I can understand some indie artists starting out have to do that, but if you're as big as Sierra, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna put it in here for some of it all, but I mean, it frustrates me that it was like a lot of old material. But at the same time, I'm glad that it had a full album for, some of those songs are kind of good, but it does have Chris Brown. Kind of like How We Roll though. Um I mean, I don't listen to Chris Brown anymore. I haven't for over a decade, but longer, 15 years, but whatever. Marina, I really wanted to review her album this year, and it just fell through the cracks, partly because it came out when a bunch of other albums were coming out that I had to talk about, so I just didn't have the time. Princess of Power, although I don't love that album title, I do think that it was a stronger entry for her than her previous record. There's something so unapologetically unafraid of critics on this record. I don't think she cared ever really did. But I think that, critics will never take a project that's this girly and unapologetically bubblegum in this day and age, but the fans are here for it. I saw Marina actually on tour this year, and seeing her perform the title song and Cantissimo and Everybody Knows I'm Sad and Final Boss, all of these incredible bops in person was just a true spectacle. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm going in so close to great. I think that, I actually might even like it more than Kesha's record. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, at the end of the day, there's not really any skips. Everyone Knows I'm Sad took a moment for me, but now I kind of think it's brilliant. And then there is the deluxe, which has a couple great ballads on there. Unfamiliar Heavens, How to Say Goodbye, or is that How to Say Goodbye? Is that what it's called? Really beautiful. So yeah, Princess of Power. I mean, Marina's still got it. Marina has still got it. Um, it's sometimes a little basic, but I don't begrudge that. I mean, that's what Marina's here for. She's like an antithesis to the mainstream basic pop music. And Cantissimo is a serve and one of the best song titles of the year. I almost didn't include this on here, but I did go back and make sure I checked out Ethel Cain. I had never checked out Ethel Cain before this year. Now, Ethel Cain actually put out 2 albums this year. One of them I listened to in January when it came out, and I was like, goodness gracious, this is a challenging listen. Perverts is not an album that I think most of her fans were really wanting from her. But people appreciated, they were like, girl, I get it. We all go through depression, okay? We all go through depression. So I get it. But I mean, a lot of those songs, I was like, I cannot listen to this, especially if I'm going through winter depression myself. Kind of iconic for making such great horror soundtrack ambiance, but not a very pleasant listening experience in any other form. But then she put out a more traditional singer-songwriter fare album in Willoughby Tucker, I Love You. Is that what it's called? Forgive me. It's not listed here. And I don't know who Willoughby Tucker is. I don't need to know. I just get swept up in the soft country tinged, like melancholic, wistful reminiscings of Ethel's breezy and deft melody work. I mean, I'm going to still unfortunately only put it in here for some of it all because at the end of the day, I wasn't like loving everything. There were only really 2 songs that stood out for me, but I respect it. I respect the artistry fully. I mean, the songwriting is top tier. This year I got into Twice a little bit more with their album This Is For. As far as K-pop albums go, this is the one that I think made the most noise for me. There were some bops, some booty poppin', intense break your back kind of stuff going on. And so I'm here for it, but only some of it. Let's see, I'll put you down here. Happiness is Going to Get You by Ali X. There are some strong songs here. I really appreciated, all the piano work. Um, I think there's some harp work. I mean, I was really struck by the overall kind of reflection on feeling bad into something positive, and you can hear that in the way the songs are constructed. So yeah, here for some of it all for sure. I'm going to put you kind of right behind Ethel here. I was so happy that Sarah McLachlan returned after 11 years. Um, Gravity, Wilderness, Only Human, those piano ballads are as gut wrenching as only Sarah can make. But there's also the title track, there's One in a Long Line where she curses. There's like a little bit of that fire still for that rockier side of her that she used to have. So this is it's a great record for her to put out at this stage in her career. And I love the album title. And so for me, it's definitely Going in Something Beautiful, because this record just meant so much, and it was always going to. I just love Sarah's voice. We got our one Don't Click Play, Mr. Benson Boone with American Heart. I only kind of like one song, and like is a strong word here, Mr. Electric Blue. But the rest of this is garbage. And so I don't think too many people disagree on that. I think, you know, it's reheated nachos from dime a dozen male pop stars before him, and it just doesn't have a lot of identity, other than the gimmicks he does on stage, the somersaults. I mean, the music video is kind of clever for that, poking fun at it, the Mr. Electric Blue music video, but that's the only thing that I think gives this album any merit. Ash Nico's Smoochies is, again, kind of in similar vein to Cupcake, just as irreverent and raunchy and hilarious as you'd want from hyperpop. I Want My Boyfriends to Kiss is just the most iconic, most iconic line. Here for some of it all, for sure. Put you up about here. Virgin by Lorde. See, this is a tough one. I was a huge solar power apologist. When everyone was going against it, I was like, I'm feeling this like earthen midsummer vibes. Like, come on, like this is more my style. I liked that it wasn't as Jack Antonoff-y. And then we returned to that with Virgin. Now, I will say there's a couple songs that I think have the catharsis and the right mix of heavy beats and propelling melody that work for me, like Hammer. But then there are a lot of songs that like Man of the Year, David, they don't do a lot for me melodically or sonically, even though I might really appreciate the lyrical content. So I'm going to put this at the very bottom area of here for some of it all, only because I still respect a few songs, and I feel bad putting Lorde in the life of a flop girl, although let's be honest, this album did kind of flop. But Lorde's always been hit or miss for me. I wasn't as big into melodrama as everyone else. Lil Nas X has had a rough 2025. I hope he's okay, but he had that, arrest for walking in his underwear in LA recently. And before that, he put out an EP, Days Before Dream Boy, which was supposed to lead into Dream Boy, which is his long anticipated and teased second studio album. I don't know if it's coming anymore after these, things that have gone down. But I gotta be honest, I really do think there's some gems here. I mean, Hotbox is, it's a shame. I mean, this should be all over the radio. For a, gay male artist to make such an earworm like that plays to urban radio, but also pop gay radio. I'm just like, oh, you're the best crossover we could get between these two kind of spheres. And I really love Light Again. Need That Boy. I mean, it's definitely got mixtape, entries here, like where it feels a little bit mixtapey, but I mean, it's a shame. So I'm putting it in here for some of it all. I really hope that Lil Nas X gets back on track. I don't know if Dream Boy is ever going to happen, though. I don't know if like this EP ends up being what it is. I don't know. Let's see. We've got There's Always More I Could Say by Sigrid. Sigrid, every album release has been more and more on my radar, and this is my favorite of hers to date. Jellyfish is just a captivating lead single talking about, losing your spine with someone and the illusion of a jellyfish and the way it just careens at you at full speed with the sonics. I'm in love. I mean, Hush Baby, sorry, I can't remember the name of it. Fort Knox. There's some serious bops here. So honestly, I'm putting it in so close to great, only that, there's a few songs that, still don't like scream I need to have them on my phone. 21 Pilots, Breach, I think is a step up from their last record. 21 Pilots is always hit or miss for me. I'm not the target demo for them, but I do appreciate, the earnest kind of stick it to the system attitude that comes through, the great vocals from the lead vocalist, some of the killer production that's involved. Here for some of it all for sure. I think Garbage might be my favorite. This was the year for the Blackpink girls. I mean, it was also the year for the Little Mix girls, but Blackpink had a huge year. Besides Rosé, who released last year, and Jisoo, we had both Jennie and Lisa release debut albums this year. I will say, I think Lisa had the slightly stronger project. Ruby by Jennie is not, it's fine. It does the job, but it's not quite as memorable. So we'll put it in here for some of it all. Whereas Lisa's, I'm just going to skip right to it. I think Lisa's is very close to great. I think, Elastigirl, Rockstar, Rapunzel. I mean, there's just hit after hit after hit. Extra Large. And she's hot off of White Lotus. This was a big year for her. I'm a big Lisa stan at this point. Rosalia's Lux came out of nowhere. And the fact that it was a classical music homage, I think that really, it perked a lot of people's ears up, but really flipped the script on, I think she always had that, lean in some of her earlier records, but this was just unapologetic. And Burkane was just, a tour de force. And so for me, this is definitely something beautiful for sure. I think this record, she speaks in so many different languages. Apparently a bunch of these songs are not on streaming yet, so I wonder when some of those will eventually show up. But throughout the deluxe, and the standard, she speaks in 13 different languages. In the standard, I didn't hear that many, but I think, I heard German, Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese and English. But apparently she speaks in like Mandarin and, like a couple other languages on the deluxe that I haven't heard yet. Dreamsicle, Maren Morris did the exact same thing as Ciara, except the EP was a little more recent. She put out an EP last summer, and then she decided to put out an album with that EP tacked on. I hope this isn't a trend we see happening more, but there are some songs like Because of Course that, carry this album for me. But I really love some of the newer songs as well. So yeah, here for some of it all, but it's going to go on the lower end here. The Clearing by Wolf Alice, so close to great. I think that this record, it has The Sofa, which is just so beautiful. This is a less heavy rock record from them. In the past, they've been a little heavier. The acoustic bent just works so well for them. I'm becoming more and more a big Wolf Alice fan as they progress through their career. Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party. Going in Slayham. It's going right behind Mayhem up here. Come on. Oh my God, my computer is dying. The way this was released was kind of messy, but I'm kind of here for it. The way it was just a bunch of MP3 files on her website, and then we didn't know if they were going to be a part of an album, and then they were released all as singles online, and then finally put it in an album, and then she added songs month after month. There's almost no skips. It is just an impeccable body of work. And if it is her swan song as a solo artist, what a way to go out on. Haley reminding us that she is one of the millennial songwriters to never sleep on. And I always love when they call out racist country singers. So always here for that as well. I Said I Love You First, Benny Blanco and Selena Gomez's duet album. I mean, it was great to get new music from Selena. There are some hits on here I wasn't expecting because I was expecting a slightly sleepier record. Bluest Flame, I was not expecting how hard that was going to go. But then there's also songs like I Can't Get Enough, which were released in 2019 that are on this project. So it's a little bit of a catch all for a lot of stuff. Um, I'm going to put it in So Close to Great because, I mean, I did enjoy a lot of it. I did enjoy a lot of it. I don't know if we're going to get a Selena Gomez proper studio record again, but this was a great tease for that in the meantime. Mariah Carey returned this year, Here for It All. It's going in its namesake, Here for Some of It All. Look, I love that Mariah has not given up, but it's still hard to like compare it to her previous works. But there's definitely stuff here. I mean, Nothing is Impossible has the motivational spirit that I love from her 90s ballads and early 2000s ballads. I actually have kind of grown to like Type Dangerous, even though at first I hated it. And she still got it. So let's celebrate that. Even though she gets a little Jesus-y by the end, and I think she did a better job with the gospel stuff on Me I Am Mariah with Heavenly No Ways Tired. But this album, does what it needs to do to keep Mariah somewhat in the conversation, even though it's not going to, sell like her previous records. Of Monsters and Men delivered their fourth studio album this year, and I did review it on this channel. I'm a little disappointed by it, but at the end of the day, I'm still putting it in So Close to Great because I do think, and I'm putting it at the top because I will always be here for an Of Monsters and Men project. And that's all I'm going to say. I saw them live this year as well, and that was truly magical. It's a slightly sleepier sound than their earlier, more rousing stuff, but they still got it. They still got it. Elton John put out an album with Brandy Carlisle. I actually think it was pretty damn good. I mean, it's not, anything groundbreaking, for Elton John, but I mean, I have to give it his props. I mean, there's one song that's When This World Is Done With Me that is so emotional because you're realizing how old he is and contemplating his mortality and his career. It's a heavy subject, very emotional. Ally and AJ, Silver Deliverer. This is their best album yet, I think, since their 2000s work. I love the country tinged folk sound. They're just on the road on this record. It's like if Pretty Places, the song, which I really love, off of A Touch of the Beat, was made into an entire record. If You Get Lonely, Places to Run, Lasso, there's just hit after hit. What It Feels Like. This album is going in So Close to Great, and it's going pretty high up. Tame Impala, Deadbeat, Dracula was a big hit. I didn't listen to every song on this record. This is one of those. So I'm going to put it in here for Some of It All. I liked Obsolete. But the rest of it really didn't do that much for me. But, Tame Impala is a good producer. Everybody Scream by Florence and the Machine. I reviewed this record. It is going in Slayhem because at the end of the day, Florence, she just delivers. I can't, I don't know what else to say. I think Perfume and Milk, Drink Deep, Kraken, Everybody Scream, Sympathy Magic. This record evokes all of the things I wanted to evoke, even if it still falls a little short of some of her greatest first three records. Cardi B, Am I the Drama? So close to great. Cardi, you're really bringing me along here. I was not as big a fan of her debut, but this album, it's got me more on board. And, it's really unfortunate to see the fall of Nicki Minaj, but we got to acknowledge it. I will always kind of prefer Nicki's music over Cardi's, but Cardi's politics and her social media presence and what she, and all the beefs that she gets embroiled in, that has to deal with some real BS, I am always going to be on Cardi's side on that regard. But like, she's really winning me over here. But this album was so long overdue. I mean, I'm impressed that it ever came out. It had WAP on it, a song that was 5 years old. Oh my goodness. Addison Rae gave us her debut this year, and although I perhaps had a little too high lofty expectations for it, it still delivered, although a lot of the singles were released ahead of time. This album for me it's going in Slayhem because because of Aquamarine. Like, at the end of the day, Aquamarine is like pairing and Diet Pepsi and times like these. Headphones on. We've got Bad Bunny's record. This opened up the year. This was the first album of 2025. I'm here for some of it all. I love how unabashedly it was about celebrating Puerto Rico. And I think that, in the cultural and political moment that we're living in, that is going to be something that not only hugely resonates, but could be something that helps him with Grammy voters. So we'll see. The opening track is my favorite off of that record. Eusexua actually has 2 album covers on Apple Music and 2 track lists. And that's not including the Afterglow version. So we're going to be talking about Eusexua in these 2 album cover versions. I have them both listed here, like they're both right next to each other. I am going to put them right next to each other. They're both going up in Slayhem. I think that they might just go one below Miss Gaga here. I'm going to be honest. I was not really a huge FKA Twigs fan before this record. I don't know what changed, but maybe it was just that she really wanted to hit the dance floor this time around. And before, she was still kind of more in that experimental electro glitch kind of thing. But this album maybe it's her most mainstream and accessible, but it's still not accessible. I mean, it's high art. But this album, as she says, it's a way of being, and it's a way of existing. It's a movement. It's a statement. And almost every single song hits. 24-Hour Dog, I needed some time with it, but I've come around. The lyrics, the melody, the pop hook, the production, the dancing, the choreo, the visuals, everything is serving. We'll talk about Afterglow that's coming up. Perimenopop, which is also one of my favorite album covers, album titles of the year, by Sophie Ellis-Bextor. Here for some of it all, for sure. I mean, it's a safe pop record for her. It's not her best, but it does the job. Olivia Dean's Man I Need. This is not really... I wanted to love this record. But there's only like 1 or 2 songs that I felt stood out. But I respect her. She's had a big year this year. She really blew up. This is where it's tough. I feel like really cruel putting it in the life of a flop girl. But I'm actually looking ahead, and I don't really think there's any other album that would go there. But I'm not going to put it down there. I'm going to put it, I think those 2 are going to stay in those 2 categories. It's 2 men I'm going to put down there. Louder, Please by Rose Gray. This actually had a deluxe version as well. Switch and Wet Hot, I believe it's called. Inject that shit into my veins. Rose Gray is the future of dance music, and I am here for it. But at the end of the day, I still only love some of the songs. So she's going somewhere in the middle here. Tropico Queta by Carol G. Oh my God, this is such a love letter to Caribbean culture and Latin culture. All over the diaspora, this record, it pulls from so many different genres of Latino music. I love that it's not all excessively produced. It's a lot of actual drums and marimbas and, maraca, it feels like a homegrown record. Even though it does have Latina Forever, which is this more polished pop banger, it has so many ballads, so much heart on its sleeve. It's so fun to dance to. And so for me, it's so close to great. I think that this record, needs just one or two more bangers, and it's up there. I'm gonna actually put it though right up next to Kesha here. Real big standout that I wasn't expecting this year. Hurry Up Tomorrow, which had an accompanying flop of a movie. Talk about the life of a flop girl. The album's not that bad. Give Me Mercy, I can get behind. The title track, I can get behind. I mean, it's an introspective project, and it's the end of a trilogy of albums that he's been releasing since After Hours in 2020. So, I mean, I'm going to put here for some of it all. I mean, I wasn't, there's really two or three, and that's it. But I mean, it's funny how he just fell off. I mean, this album made no noise. He really flopped this year for sure. I don't know why I have Rosalia in here twice. She's just that good, so we're gonna put her album twice. I don't know why that happened, but she gets 2 spots. There you go, girl. Lux gets 2 spots. We've got Flux by Alison Goldfrapp. I think this was a huge step in the right direction off of her first solo record. She is, of course, of the indie, the electronic indie group Goldfrapp that's been releasing for decades. So close to great. This album is truly remarkable. Transcendent club pop music that just is so psychedelic and iridescent. Purity Ring, this is their self-titled and, always a bit hit or miss, but I think very close to greatness once again. Put it a little lower here. I'm an Ocean, Red the Sunrise, MJ Odyssey, Place of My Own. I mean, there's some real standouts. We had Fancy That, which was a mixtape by Pink Pantheress, which had the runaway hit Illegal. Got some bops, got some tunes, but at the end of the day, still a little middling for me. Asleep in the Garden of Infernal Stars is an album that just came out, the most recent on this tier ranking list, that features Curly. Seven Lions is an electronic, dubstep producer that hasn't put out a proper album that I'm aware of in a long time, but he hasn't worked with Curly since 2014. And this album, not only do the Curly tracks bang, but the other collaborations as well. And so actually, I'm putting it in so close to great because I was just kind of swept away by this one. It's transformative, cosmic, accelerate, high octane, bombastic electronic music, and it soars like it should. Afterglow is a far cry from its sister album, Eusexua. And of course, FKA Twigs deciding to put out this and then also another version of Eusexua it was a very confusing rollout. But I actually have grown to love about half of it. So I don't know. I'm a little torn. I think I'm going to put it in the high end of Here for It All, right at the top, above Ed Sheeran, because I do think that, slushy, hard love crimes, these songs would fit perfectly in the standard edition of Eusexua. But the latter half of the record loses me a little bit. It's just very all over the place and very experimental. So Close to What is so close to great. I mean, from Miss Possessive to Sports Car to It's Okay, I'm Okay to Two Hands to Blood on My Hands. I mean, Miss Thing did her thing. But, sometimes it feels like SZA reheated nachos. Sometimes it feels like it's not, like after Addison Rae, which was just this very female-produced, lush, gorgeous, trend-setting kind of thing. It feels a little derivative what Tate McRae is doing, but I'm still here for it. We're going to put it up, probably right up next to Miss Rebecca Black, probably right behind Alison Goldfrapp here. Then we have The Life of a Showgirl. Look, I know it's been popular to shit all over this record recently. I still think it's not Taylor's worst album. If you're here for what it is, which is a honeymoon pop record that doesn't have Jack Antonoff, then it's pretty good. And so close to great, but on the low side, I'm going to put it up here with Elton. Is a fair placement. I don't know what else to tell you. The Fate of Ophelia is great. Um, it's got some songs that I just it automatically went there. No, girl, we're gonna put you up here. Um, Elizabeth Taylor, like I'm sorry, I'm not gonna completely, I can be hard on Taylor Swift, but I'm not gonna be untrue about how I feel. And then Zara Larsson's the one I want to talk about. Almost there, so close to great. I was really into Midnight Sun. It's very comparable, I think, to what Tate McRae is doing. And so those two albums being kind of next to each other with Demi, I think makes perfect sense. But I was never checking for Zara Larsson like this before. But this record, from the title track, just hypnotically entranced me. Euro Summer, Hot and Sec. I mean, this record is just such a great Scandi pop celebratory Euro dance record that I really wish she'd released earlier in the year, because she released it at the end of the summer. So it's sort of like, the timing was a little off. But I mean, it's a true slay moment. And then we have Sincerely by Kali Uchis. Oh, this is such a beautiful record. I'm going to put on the low end of So Close to Great. My favorites being Sunshine and Rain, Territorial, and Heaven is a Home. Her transcendent, kind of mellifluous melody lines over these lush harps and instrumentals just really take you on this like kind of warm and fuzzy journey that is a little different from Orquídeas. I can't pronounce her last album very well. I'm so sorry. Which was a little bit more, reggaeton. This album is a little more subdued, but I am still very much in love with what she's selling. All in all, we got 2 albums in these 2 categories, and even I couldn't put Justin in Don't Click Play, because there are 1 or 2 songs that I was like, all right, sorry, Miss Kiki P, you almost went down there. But I think that I feel pretty good. I mean, we've got 4 albums in Something Beautiful. They almost made it, but in the top, we've got 6 albums. We've got Eusexual, which is 1 here. We've got Showbiz, Addison, Everybody Scream, Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party, Eusexua, and Mayhem. Those are my top albums of the year, and I feel pretty strong about those. And then these bottom out, these, fill out the top 10, right here. That's 10 albums. That's one, yeah. So yeah, what are your thoughts? I think I feel pretty good about this list. I know there's albums I missed. It's just, there's a lot of music that it's hard to keep track of it all. I will be making a video where I talk about my 40 favorite individual songs of the year. I sort of foreshadowed a little bit of it in this video, but there's a few surprises. I also didn't include any soundtracks. So Wicked for Good wasn't going to be on this list. I don't know, especially since that was music that was already made for a Broadway musical that's already been, I don't know. I didn't include any soundtracks. This was all just, studio records that were, singer-songwriter fare. But but soundtracks will very much be eligible for my best songs of the year video. So stay tuned for that. It'll come out sometime between Christmas and New Year's. But I hope you enjoyed this ranking, and let me know what your favorite top 5, top 10 albums of the year were. Do you agree with my list? Any other albums, that really stuck out to you that you'd love to mention? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read them. Thank you all so much for watching, and subscribe if you want more content like this. I will see you all in my next video. Peace, love, and light. Bye.